late, but given that we do need to make sure we conclude in the 1 hour time slot, we might as well just start. Then we can just bring Liza up to speed when she is able to join us. So Damon had sent with this an agenda and then the minutes. So I think oh, you know what? I'm not sure we can actually, I never quite know with this smaller subcommittee whether we need to have enough people to vote on the minutes, or I think we have historically just reviewed and we've got two of the 4 subcommittee members, so maybe we'll wait for Liza. Okay, so we can table that item for a moment, and then we can just launch into the discussion about the training. So, Justine, you were about to say something about the agenda, about not Justine, about Jody.
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm with my speakers because we had assigned dates and times for different presentations. Yep. And she is teaching a class right now, and a lot of her students are interested in doing some GAL work. So I know, do we have a requirement that they're licensed attorneys in order to take the class, or can students sign up for the class? Have we made that decision as to who we're going to admit and not admit?
Well, we have hi Liza.
Hi Liza.
Liza,
we just started, so.
Well, we had historically for these trainings as part of the registration put all of the practice book requirements in there that would match what you'd need to actually be approved. But hold on a second, I can grab, let's just see what the I don't think the practice book is specific to it. Let's check.
No, and I think we historically let 1 or 2 law students in from Quinnipiac and or UConn. I know Quinnipiac law students have been in before, and this is where she's teaching at Quinnipiac Law.
Yeah, we have allowed interns, that is true. We have allowed people to participate. I think that's going to be fine. Now that you mention it, I do know we have done that in the past. So we had actually drafted the was not really taxing work. We just dusted off the 2018 and fixed the dates, but the registration form even previously had actually put that in as a requirements. In order to register, you had to make sure you checked off and certified that all of those things were, you met all the requirements for that. But I do think it would probably make sense.
Sue, sorry for just 1 second. Justine, do you mind because of the echo? If you're not talking.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I was just going to make one comment before I mute myself. Is it something that we might have to bring to the oversight committee, and we can't make that decision at this level? That's my question.
Hold on. I'm just looking at something because that will determine what we need to do. 2562. And I'm just wondering if last time when we allowed the interns to sit in, or the folks who wouldn't, were not yet licensed, I think they registered independent of the actual form. Yeah, I mean the training, I think it only applies to ultimately being appointed. They'd have to certify at that point that they've completed the training. Let's look at the training section. Approve the curriculum of the training. I think it would be fine. I don't see that it's mandated for the training itself. I have to think about, we don't want to open it up. I mean, it was nice to have that as a requirement that they checked off on the form, because then you knew it wouldn't allow you, to register unless you had certified all those things. So we'd probably have to think about adding a category that would allow for, we'd have to figure out how to word it. Maybe we could play around with it, but either recent law school graduates or not yet licensed, or mental health professionals who use the same language, seeking licensure maybe, or something.
Yeah, I think the students she has in mind are in their last year, they may not be graduated
yeah.
upon the application to get into the class. I don't know. I'm just asking the question for her.
Yeah, no, I know. I was originally thinking that we would keep it limited to the people who would otherwise qualify to then later be appointed. But I know we have allowed law students in the past. I know it was law students in particular. I don't know. What do you guys think about it? I can tell you that the practice book is sort of, you know, they'd ultimately have to meet that requirement to be, obviously, to ultimately get on the list and be assigned a case. But how, you know, where would we want to put the limit? You know, I don't want to be a first-year law student who wouldn't otherwise be able to actually qualify and get assigned cases for 3 years or 2 years, you know? You know, how open do we want it to be? I mean, I kind of like the idea of bringing in new people, but.
Yeah, I might suggest that we will, you know, just a blurb that we will open up this training to a limited number of graduating law students, and then we can decide where the cutoff is, 2 per law school for in total, whatever we want it to be. That would be my suggestion.
And if we do it for law students, I think we would also have to open it up to non-lawyer GALs who are also, but for the licensing, because that's really what we're, you know, because there might be mental health professionals who would not qualify, but for the fact that they're not yet licensed. So we can play around with that. But if there's consensus that it might make sense to open it to people who might be eligible in the future and are interested in doing the work. Liza, what do you think?
I don't know. Is the concern that because of COVID, we've only held this every 2 years, that there would be a large gap in between when someone graduates and when they could attend the class?
No, I don't think Jody is even aware that that we're only going to offer it now. And I haven't talked with her about specifically about that it's going to become more accessible. She just responded to my request about making sure she could do the date and time that we were asking her to present. And she said, by the way, I'm teaching a Quinnipiac class. There's a few students who are interested in being, becoming a GAL. Do you think they can get into the training or do they have to wait? So I said, I don't know, I'll ask. So I think knowing that it's going to be easier to be trained in the future, maybe this isn't such a hard question to say no to, because they can, once they're licensed. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I know, like I say, that when we did it in 2018, we did have I think it was just 1 or 2 people who participated then. But I think it wasn't through our formal registration process kept it the way we have designed it for this training, which was that you'd have to certify all of the requirements. And I think in that instance, they were after, I think there was space available or something. I can't recall the specifics of it. But I think since we may be able, especially if we're going to be recording this and perhaps better able to provide the trainings moving forward with some with like less time elapsing, if we're going to do it, I don't know if we're going to do it every summer, but and we do it roughly around this time in June, new lawyers who are recent graduates who might want to take it, I think are going to have more opportunities.
Yeah, I think if a few students wanted to attend just for their own knowledge base, like I wouldn't have any problem with that. I don't know, but I guess I don't know. I guess I'm the non-lawyer here. I don't know if it, because they're not yet graduates, and for social workers not yet licensed, does that matter? Like, should they have met those requirements and then take the class for purposes of being a GAL? Whereas if they're just students and they're interested in what might be taught, that if we have a few slots open, happy to have students sit in, but not for purposes of saying they completed the class.
Right.
Yeah, I come down sort of on the other side. just because, especially now with space no longer being an issue because it's on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, whatever we're going to do, that now, like, what would be the reason for not allowing them to take the class? I would want them to be far enough along in their training, like a third-year law student or a fourth-year night law student. But I mean, what's the purpose of not having them allowed to be, get certified ahead of time? I don't know.
My only question is a strict reading of the practice book, which I don't have in front of me. That would be it. Yeah, I think if it's permissible by that, then and that we are kind of what you guys already talked about, just reserving a certain number of seats for that, so that practicing attorneys and mental health professionals can participate. I don't have a problem with that. I just don't know the strict reading of the requirements in the practice book. That's all.
Liza, can I just say, I think the way the way you're phrasing the questions, which are, I think, quite appropriately, the way they ring makes it sound like it's something that the full committee probably needs to weigh in on, which doesn't mean you can't ask, most definitely. But I think just the way, the types of questions that are being asked, about the threshold questions here seem to ring that the committee should weigh in.
Well, why don't we do this? I mean, when we update the committee at the larger meeting, we can, it'll be, trying to think if we were planning on posting the registration form and announcement before that meeting is going to be May 14th. That would only be a couple, and they have to approve the curriculum just a couple weeks in advance. I was thinking of trying to post the registration. Well, you know what we can do? I mean, we can still, if there's some consensus around potentially adding one box to the requirements, that the applicants need to submit in order to register. We could add language. We could put the box in there so that it's available, and then we could put, if limit it to maybe we would say third-year law students or recent law school graduates, not yet. So we'll have to come up to language, and something similar for the behavioral health, mental health professional category, and then we could put some qualifying language in the form itself that just says, as space permits, or well, space is no longer an issue, so we can't really use that. But do you know what I mean? And then we could at least see, maybe only 2 or 3 people apply. We could put it in the form, I guess, and then we could. Because just filling out the form doesn't guarantee necessarily that you will actually be registered. And then if the full committee has an issue with that, then we can just let whoever applies who are not yet licensed lawyers or mental health professionals, we could just let them know that they'll have to apply for a future training. What do you guys think about that? It's kind of a hybrid, but I think that could work.
Yeah, I think that will work. And I think as long as there's language there saying registration does not guarantee you a place in the training, something like that, so no one has the expectation, oh, I'm in, then I think we're covered.
So we'll have to talk to our forms people, Danielle, but with Norm, about how that would work, because we triggered it. It was very easy to have it just an automatic. Once you certify that you meet all these things, you're basically sort of registered, although we were capping it at 50, but if you came in under the 50, it was first come, first serve. That's how we had historically done it. And this year, we'll see how many we get. I think we were still thinking about potentially capping it, but I guess that'll depend on the demand. I think some of the speakers, well, I don't know, I guess we can ask them, but I think there was some concern that if you have a really, really large group that's much larger than that, if they want to have any type of interaction, question and answer, things like that, or breakout rooms. I don't know if they were planning that. But we didn't meet we just reached the cap, I think, last time. So I think it should be fine. So we'll play around with the language. Go ahead, Liza.
I'm sorry, is it too big of a pain to do a separate registration for students, so that, so again, that piece is clear that, please register, and space permitting, we might be able to add you in, and also make it a little less complicated, the practicing professionals.
I think we could, I'm sure there's a way to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah, and then we have a cleaner list for the, yeah, so let's talk, we'll talk to our person who did the form for us and see how we can do that. So there'd basically be the registration list of everybody who actually currently qualifies, and then another category for students or recent graduates or something like that. We'll figure out the language of the wording. Okay. So Justine, I know we had just started with that specific question, but why don't we review the minutes? We were just waiting. We can cross that off the list. The minutes from the last meeting that Damon had emailed around. I don't know if anybody has any issues or wants to move to accept them.
I'll move.
And second?
Second.
Okay, there's so many. It's such a small group. It's so bizarre. But okay, yep. Okay, any comments or questions? All right, so all in favor? Aye. Nobody's opposed. So the minutes are approved. Okay. So I did email around, and I'm sorry I sent this so late, but it didn't change much from the last agenda or the training outline that we had gone over, but I thought we can just work off of this again for a moment, and then we can just go back to some of the other logistics. So I know if we just want to start at the top for the first day, I think Judge Albus was fine with that, so we're good there, and Justine would be also on that first day, and I think those dates worked for Judge Albus as well, so we're good there. For Wednesday, June 9th, Joe DeTuno also is fine with doing, and since we had the breakout rooms for this one, so the first hour would be Joe. And I mean, I guess we can leave it up to him in some regards about what he think would be useful to cover in light of the audience. He can obviously cover some of the same things that he did last time when he did the training in 2018, but we were thinking of having him talk a little bit more about the virtual nature of family court business at the moment and some of the new procedures. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super confusing.
Yeah, I'm not in there anymore, so I'm like out of my element in terms of sort of like all of the changes, but I did watch the presentation or the informational form as they called it. That I think it was Joe D'Alessio and Judge Albus did, am I right? Damon?
I thought it was Joe DeTuno.
Well, maybe it was.
I don't know.
Last time it was Joe. It was Joe.
Oh, okay. So something similar to sort of what he had done for that, I thought was useful. I don't know. And it was a different audience, but so he's good anyway. Justine, for the breakout rooms, again, I don't know. Do you guys still think it's going to make sense to do one breakout room for experienced folks or do we want to do it one for lawyer? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I thought we were thinking one for non-lawyers / new lawyers, and that would be me. And we had Margaret Bozek in there, but she actually is scheduled for trial.
Okay.
And so I asked Catherine Bissonette from Brown, Panderas and Scott to join me on that, and she's available and would do that.
Okay. How do you spell her name? Is it with a K?
Yeah, Catherine with a K and RYN at the end, and Bissonette is 2 S's, 2 N's, 2 T's, Bissonnette. She's a really good attorney. She was here for a number of years as a GAL, so she's got both sides of it and is pretty seasoned. Now, Susan, you were going to talk to Danielle and Susan Cousineau, right?
Yep, Sue Cousineau was all set to do it. Danielle's also fine doing it. She just wanted more information about what we would want to have covered on that.
Okay.
So I don't know if it would make sense to...
So why don't I set up a meeting with the two of them and just sort of explain how we at CLC used to do those lunch and learns?
Yeah.
Because I expect it would be very similar to that. Because these are lawyers who have experience in family law. They're well-known family law attorneys, and they just aren't they're new to the role of the GAL. So we would run it. I mean, I anticipate it would be run as like a sort of a dissect a case, a difficult case, and what the attorneys expected of the GAL versus what the GAL believed the role to be, and then how do you parse all that out when you're giving testimony, all of that. So, but I can speak. Danielle's so good, and so is Sue. Like, they're the perfect team.
You know what else?
Yeah, they'll be great. And I could even come up with like we do this every month just for our staff, and the cases are like insanely complicated. And so I could even use those, let them, give them some ideas of some cases that they can use.
What I'll do is I will email Sue and Danielle together and copy you, and just say as a follow-up, because I talked to them both separately, and they both, I think, I know Sue knows Danielle. I don't know if they've ever really, worked together or worked closely together on any cases, but I'll email them, copy you, and just say that in terms of next steps, that you'll be reaching out to set something up with them to kind of go over what the agenda might want to look like. It is only the 1 hour session, for the breakout portion. So I think that sounds perfect.
Yeah, so 2 or 3 case scenarios if needed, because we're hoping that the lawyers, being seasoned lawyers, are going to have their own experiences that they'd like to sort of throw out there. What should have happened, what did happen, Yep. So in this group, there won't be any non-attorney GALs. Where we were just the first group was gonna be new lawyers and non-lawyers, and then the second group was gonna be experienced lawyers only. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I was trying to think, I'm like, there shouldn't be any experienced non-lawyer GALs, because they would not have otherwise been in family court before. Do you know what I mean? Do you guys think? Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's good. Child development for the 14th. I think Jody was on board with that date and time. Did that work for her, the date? Yeah, okay. And then Christine. Susan, can you hear me when I'm muting myself?
I'm just looking at you nodding your head.
Oh, okay, I can't see you, so all right, fine, that's good.
Is my video not on? Oh, I'm down. Do you guys see me? Anybody? Weird. Okay. I don't know why. I see myself, unfortunately. That is so weird. Literally, I'm down in the right corner, and my video is on. Huh.
Oh, now it is.
Weird. I don't know what I did. It's like when all else fails, shut it off and turn it back on, and it will work. So, all right. Sorry that you were robbed of that opportunity to see me in the earlier portion of the meeting. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, because I was nodding, and I'm like, I don't know if she's been on. So yes.
Listen, I know.
So Jody's good. I'm sorry, Justine. Jody's good with that date and time too. Okay. And so Christine Rivera is. I connected with her from DCF, and she is actually in the process of promotion, which is great. So she's still with the training academy, but she has hooked us up with one of the other trainers who works in their training academy, Colleen Drummond. I'm not familiar with her, but she and the training director, Tim Monahan, are on board with providing us with whatever help we need. So I'm going to reach out to Colleen. I think that Christine Rivera had the date, and so hopefully that'll work for Colleen. And then same thing, what I can do there is email Jody and Colleen ultimately once she's confirmed, and maybe have them connect directly about their.
Yeah, Jody did want to know, like, do we want just general child development? Do we want to understand the impact of conflict on child development? Like, there's a lot that can go into that. So right. Maybe it's a conversation you can have with Colleen and Jody offline, and I'm happy to join that if you want me to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that initially our thought was it would be very similar to what they had done previously. I think Christine sent her the PowerPoint that she had used. I don't know if before the last training, to be honest with you, in 2018, I don't know if Jody and Christine, they coordinated it themselves. I don't recall being involved in that, but I will do that. I will just check in with them and set up some time for them to, I can facilitate it just to have a prep meeting. So I'll do that. I'll copy you anyways, Justine, too. And if you can join it, that would be great. And we can see what we think might be useful for them. Okay. And I think you had said last time Dr. Humphrey is good with that date and time.
All right. Yeah, he had confirmed that before. I sent an email earlier today. He had asked me some questions about reading materials. Which I responded to, and he hasn't, I just said, I wanted to make sure you're good with the day and time, and he hasn't replied yet, but I'm fairly confident that he'll be okay. I mean, I guess my question would be, if suddenly one of these presenters couldn't attend because of court or whatever, can we just record them ahead of time and play the recording to the Teams group? Would that be a opportunity in case something happens? I'm concerned about court dates only because we get assigned them without consultation of availability, and they're not granting continuances at all.
Oh, what do you mean? You're talking about attendees not being able to come?
No, I mean presenters.
Oh,
like if suddenly a presenter gets a court date and is like, I can't present, and we're left high and dry, maybe they could present sooner.
I think part of what I think is the benefit of the training is having the opportunity to, ask questions and engage and all that. So if that happens, I'd rather, since it's only going to be a maximum of a 2-hour block, that we would reschedule a session if needed. Because I know we're going to record them moving forward for future use, and we have to talk a little bit, I guess, about what we'll want to do with those recordings. But I'd rather, because what we're saying in the announcement too, or in the registration form, is that folks need to be on every session and log in, stay logged in until the session is over, kind of thing. We are saying right now in the registration that, I don't know if I put in there that I have to think about that, about it being recorded. I don't want to also, I know we're talking about the presenters, but I also don't want the attendees to think, well, it's being recorded anyway, so I can just watch it some other time. I'm trying to limit that. We may decide to use the recordings later. But if a presenter can't do it, emergencies come up. I would just probably prefer to reschedule it rather than let.
Okay, I don't know that that's going to happen. I just know that our calendars are not our own anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And the thing is, too, if they record it in advance, it requires them to do it twice. If they're going to record it and then turns out they have no conflict and then they can do it live, might be a waste of time for them to do, I'm thinking. But let's just hope it doesn't happen. If it does, we can reschedule a 2-hour session, I would hope, relatively easily. Liza, what do you think? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, because I do think we still have to talk through how we're going to deal with the recordings moving forward, and knowing that people actually watched them and all of that. So I think, hopefully we can get it worked out, or, if there's, maybe the other thing we do is develop a couple of backups for the attorneys presenting, just in case the one we have scheduled to present does, get called away for court. Maybe we can go to the backup.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I think as far as the recordings go, that I think, at least for this first time of doing it, that we don't want to. I wanted to be clear to all the attendees that they're to be in every session, and so I don't want them to think because it's being recorded, they can get credit. They don't have to log in, and So I'd like to try that first, because I think if we mention about the record, we'll have to talk. We'll mention the recording at the time of the session, but I don't want folks to just think once they register, then they can just watch them all at their leisure, too. So we may decide ourselves later to use the recordings for that kind of a purpose, but would you guys agree for this first go around of this type of training that it's mandatory they be in them? Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. Okay, so and then so the next day for the 21st, Dr. Frazier is fine doing that, and the date works for him. And then for the following, he was going to do the 2 days and breaking that up because he did that full day in 2018. And he's going to, he's worked with Stephen Paymer. So on the testing information that we kind of talked about. So I just have to check with Stephen. He's usually very amenable to doing these types of things. So same with them. I'm going to just confirm he's okay. And then I will email them both, just like we're doing with the other ones, and having a pre-meeting just to kind of go over what we're thinking about.
Did we take Linda Smith out of those?
Yeah, that was the one we were originally thinking in case he couldn't do it or he wanted to have someone co-present with him. And so she was on the earlier list as sort of a potential partner or backup.
Right, yeah.
But I think since now we're going to add Paymer at least to the second day. I can ask Dr. Fraser if he wants to have Linda involved. I think we were, I don't remember, I know she was on the original list.
She was, yeah. Yeah, I love Linda, and when I've seen them together, they're really good co-presenters. They have a really good dynamic.
Oh, so I'll just ask him for that first day, day 5, if he wants to have her join him.
Yeah.
11,
he can decide.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, great.
Okay, and then I apologize. I think the email that I sent around, I may not have updated it, or did I? But I will, Liza, it was very helpful, the information that you sent. You've already fleshed everything out. You're well ahead of the game. Did I update that with your, does this reflect the right names?
You just need to add Jerry's name, Jarlin O'Neill Wild. So
okay.
I can resend you the name to.
No, I'll have them. I'll have them.
Okay.
I just didn't. I might not have added it to this. I might not have updated this after I got your email.
Yep.
But that all looked great. So I'll update the list, and you've already fleshed out your curriculum, which is great. And the ethics piece, was that you?
That was me. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get Bob Madden. I will reach out to him again. Is there anyone else, like, I'll look at who the presenters were for, like, the Bar Association's ethics training, or? Our
legal counsel here, Deborah Delpret Sullivan, does ethics training, but she doesn't do anything really in the family court arena. I think she does a great job covering ethical issues that come up in the normal attorney-client realm.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, I don't know. I guess I could ask her to see if she can think of anyone. She just doesn't do anything connected with family.
Yeah, I mean, I'll reach out to Bob again. Oh, I'm sorry, Liza. Oh, I thought you said something. I'll reach out to Bob again, and then I can go through my list. There's so many good lawyers. Like maybe, oh my God, the name escapes me. It's on this page. Danielle Rado. We have some names of people that would be good in this area. Or even Sue Cousino. So we wouldn't ask them to present twice, but we could ask them if they know of anybody who might do well to present in this area. I'll take that on, since I haven't had much success with Bob.
Okay, and let me know if you want me to check with Deborah. I may just anyway see if she knows, if she does a lot of the CBO stuff for the criminal section.
Yeah, let's do both. Let's do both,
okay.
And then you and I can connect before our next subcommittee meeting. So
yeah.
And is it right that it's only for an hour, that the domestic violence piece is going to be the 1 hour and then the ethics is going to be the second hour? Or is it going to be an hour and a half an hour? Well, we have, I don't know.
It's my understanding that we were doing an hour and an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are requesting 2 hours to review that project document, because we are going from 2.5 hours in the original to an hour.
Do you need more? I mean, because this is not etched in stone. Do we want to? Because we can revise this however we think. If we think more time is needed, because I mean, I guess we've always had the ethics piece, but maybe there's another spot that we could put that in. You know what I mean? Or give it.
I don't like. I think they're prepared to do. You know, we discussed. I think they're prepared to do their presentation in an hour.
Okay.
I think we heard, you know, that they're particularly in Kelly's piece, which is more kind of about the impact of trauma. You know, that there was some repeat between some of the people who come in the days before, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm okay with not giving as much time to that, still acknowledging that I think we want to also give our perspective of the impact of trauma on moms and how they act. So we want to do that. So I think they're prepared to do the hour. But we do, you know, like when we talked about the thing that I would likely cut out last time we talked was the Battered Women's Justice Project. And Justine said that she thought that piece was really good. So I think it's fine to keep that in, and Rhonda is prepared to go over that with folks, but they need to read it in preparation. And it's a slightly lengthy document. I'm really hoping that, you know, folks are going to actually read it in advance of the meeting so that they can, what Rhonda does present in the 10 to 15 minutes she's going to present on it will be beneficial, because it is a very beneficial document. Right. So I think we're prepared for the hour. We just want to make sure that homework assignment is part of the 4 hours of
okay. All right. Yeah, if you're comfortable with that, I mean, that's fine. But if you also thought you wanted a little more time, but it sounds like you're feeling like with the reading in advance and the way you've tailored the presentation, it should give you enough time. Okay.
Because we could roll ethics into the presentation of the role of the GAL and just talk about ethics very specifically to that role, and then you would have 2 hours if you needed it. We can do it either way.
We could take 2 hours easy. So that's really up to you guys. That's kind of just where we landed last time. I do think it's important that we try to keep it to the 8, 2 hour sessions, right? That was me saying that I thought that was kind of important versus trying to go out to 9 or 10, So we're prepared to do the hour. If you think that's a workable solution, Justine, we would definitely have no problem filling the 2 hours.
So I guess it's up to, did we want to give ethics a full hour to help people fulfill the ethics training requirement that is out there? Were we considering that for this piece? Well, we could certainly roll ethics into the role of the GAL and the AMC and take it out of here. But if you wanted to give it its own topic, I could see why we would want to do that as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the requirement for the GAL is 3 hours of ethics. I mean, they get lots of ethics training. I mean, I guess the lawyers do. Maybe, well, that's all that really requires. Well, no, actually, they all require it through here. Lawyers get a lot of access to ethics training. I feel like there's lots of opportunities to get, and you only need the 3 hours. It's an hour more than the other, the MCLE kind of requirements, but I know I'm back and forth on it, because then I'm like, well, why don't we give them a half hour? What about, no, the cultural competence was going to be, do you remember, Damon, is that the full 2 hours I think they used, or close to it, hour and a half?
It was originally 90 minutes, and they had asked if they could have the extra half hour, which I left up to,
okay. Yeah, because I really don't want to shortchange, the domestic violence piece. Well, do you think, I mean, in the first day, is that what you were saying, Justine, potentially folding it in there? The only question about folding it in there is if this is like entry level, like this is to go into ethics on that first day. I don't know. Do you think that would they have enough I mean, the experienced people might have enough by way of background to benefit from conversations about ethical dilemmas that come up?
Yeah, so I think we can do a basic ethics, like the role of the GAL, staying within your role, not crossing over boundaries, what the ethics are generally. Okay. And then the real ethics conversations can also happen at the experienced breakout room as well. And that will just naturally come out organically in the conversations, because there are always dilemmas that are like, wait, should I do this? Like, what happens when you know, as a GAL, you see a drug test result that you weren't supposed to see, or like, you know, there's things, somebody tells you something they weren't supposed to tell you, and then now you have this information, you can't unknow it. Those kinds of ethical dilemmas, I think, are for the more advanced conversations.
Okay. Well, since we're struggling with a presenter on the ethics anyway, I think I'm comfortable with folding some of that in. We were already limiting it to an hour. And remember when they presented last time, there was like, we had tons of excess time. I mean, there wasn't really. So maybe we could incorporate an ethics piece in both the, like you said, the role of the AMC GAL, and then also as part of the breakout.
Right. And I mean, I wouldn't want anyone who's looking at the curriculum to think, I can't believe they're completely leaving ethics out of this.
Right.
So I would put it in part of the category, the role of the AMC JAL - ethics, or including ethics, or, you know, something about that.
You just change the title of it. Like, you know.
It's just so that people know that that's going to be incorporated. So Liza, are you going to like panic your guys that all of a sudden they've got 2 hours?
No, they'll be fine with it. So, and the other homework assignment could be after the first day, before the second day, and it could be an ethics, you know, something, reading something on ethics.
Yep.
To then have that deeper conversation on the second day.
Yep, that's a good idea. Okay. All right, I think that'll cover it, because we're going to end up, by virtue of doing it that way, we're probably going to get an hour's worth of ethics in anyway. You know, so, and last time we did it, we didn't have those breakout session opportunities to add that in. So I think that will work nicely. And you're comfortable with that, Justine, adding it to your piece that you're doing?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
okay.
No problem.
It is kind of a nice fix. I mean, not fix, but mix. The topics will blend nicely together, I think. Okay, good. So, what am I looking at here? All right, so then the last day, I think we're good with that. That was good for Troy and Zarin, I think, the date and time. And then closing remarks, I mean, I don't know if we want to check to see if Judge Albus wants to do a quick wrap up, or, you know, something to that effect. I certainly don't want to be the one doing closing remarks, because, like, you know, bored to tears by then, they're like, oh dear God. But one thing that would be useful for them to have, and I know you know, I don't know if we'd have to formally put it in the agenda somewhere, but maybe we would. Although maybe it could be fed into the breakout rooms, but it's basically the age-old questions about what it means to have a contract with our office versus being on judicial's list, payment, you know, the down and dirty, like, nuts and bolts of, okay, I get my first case, now what? So somewhere in here, I don't have to have a separate topic, but we could have Jamie do like 10 minutes or something in our office here, or I could explain it about how that works. Once you're done with this training, you meet the requirements, and, you know, you apply for to be on judicial's list. And then if you want a contract with our office, you have to be on that list, and you have to be willing to do the work at state rates, you know, so that they understand it. Because I think there's just always a lot of confusion around that. Does that make sense to you, Damon, too? Because I know we both collectively field a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, no, I think working that in
somewhere. Yeah. Doesn't need its own topic, but just we'll figure out where that makes most sense to do.
I would do it somewhere. I would, in terms of time, I would do it somewhere probably towards the end of the training, because they're more apt to remember it. But beyond that, you know. Yeah.
Well, that's why I didn't know. I don't want to be the one. Okay, like, congrats on finishing the training. Now here's how you enter your billing in FileMaker. It would be not really a nice way to, you know, I don't know, not kick it off, but to conclude it, you know. But we can figure that out where to fit it. And it would be really literally like a few, and maybe I'll think about it. It would be literally 5-10 minutes, like, so it's not an actual topic per se.
Yeah, I mean, again, we were prepared for an hour. So if you wanted to do that on the 28th, because now you're almost at the end of the training, but you don't have to make it part of the close, right? I think that would be fine.
Oh,
And
you
we
know
could
what?
plan for an hour 45.
That's a great idea, actually. You're so smart. Yeah, because now we would just, and that's close enough to the end, but not dead last. Not that I would mind being at the end, but I think that that's not a good closing remark. So maybe we'll plan to just do something at the very end of that. It'll either be me or or Jamie from my office here. Okay, perfect. I'll add that in there. And then I will just check with Judge Albus if he's okay on that day and time to do some brief closing remarks. Does that make sense to you guys? To have him wrap it up? Okay. I mean, we don't have to have any closing comments. We could just leave it. What do you guys think?
I think if those presenters are going to use the full 2, then we just wrap it up. Like,
All right,
people are just going to be all set. Oh, I had some comments actually, because I was on another training committee meeting earlier today, and these people have been doing collaborative trainings remotely since COVID hit. And so she indicated that you want to make sure that when people are logging in, and maybe you guys already know all this, but she was like, they always give instructions that you log in with your mute button on and with your video on, and your video must stay on throughout. If you have to leave your computer, you enter the chat as to an explanation why you're walking away. And so things like that I was like, oh, this is all really good information. I hadn't thought of it. So that's all.
I'm sure you guys know this already. You can set the Zoom up to do both of those things, right? But that was going to be one thing I wanted to bring up today, that I do think that the registration should be clear that videos are required to stay on the whole time, because Zoom's going to tell you that they're the period of time that they're logged in, but if I shut my camera off and walk away, I'm out. And I still do think I know we have a lot of practicing attorneys who come and do this, and so they're very well versed with this work, but this is kind of a big deal, the role they're going into, and they should participate in the 20 hours of training. And if we're going to do this virtually, you got to leave the camera on. And then I think we all need to break these days up, to make sure one of us is available each one of those days, and kind of monitoring that and making sure that folks are remaining present throughout the training.
Yeah, I agree. And we can, my thought was, with the registration form, putting aside the issue of whether we want to open it up or do a separate, registration opportunity perhaps for students, would be that putting some instruction in there, or what we have right now is a reference that following registration, a successful registration, that they'll be emailed additional information about the training. And that's where I thought we would spell all those things out, because I absolutely 100% agree. Not only that they have to, the registration form and the announcement will say you have to be in for the entire session, that there's no opportunities to make up class and things like that. But in terms of the logistical details, I absolutely agree that we would need to include those in there. So when they actually get the information and the link, and we had a brief sort of plan to meet with our training director who does a lot of these, and we went over some of the the logistics about well, it really, it's not really all that challenging really, but in terms of the breakout rooms, for example, along with those other sort of housekeeping issues, I guess we'll call them, is making sure that that everyone is on and the video's on and they stay on for the full thing. That for the breakout rooms, that there's, and maybe I already mentioned this, but that you can do, and maybe you've done it already too, Liza, where you can do an actual live, like during the training, at the end of Joe's presentation, Justine or whomever could say, there are going to be 2 breakout rooms. Explain to them, this is for this one, this is for that one. It's easier to do it live like that, and you just tell them this is the one you click on for this, and rather than having them pre-register for the groups in advance, it becomes a little bit more complicated. So that will be just a live, okay, now we're going to break into 2 sessions. This is, if you're an experienced lawyer and done a lot of family court, this is the one you'll click on, whatever, breakout 1, and if you're not, and you're a new lawyer or a non-lawyer GAL or mental health professional, you'll click on that one. So so we'll be able to set it up, the link, that way. It was funny as I was going through the agenda, I thought, oh, we're almost done with out of time. But I was thinking as I went through it, I'm like, oh, maybe it would have been easier just to do like 2 days. But it was such a lot, you know what I mean? Because it's a lot to monitor. But we no need to go revisit that now. But I still think the 2-hour block is good. But I'm thinking of the logistics of making sure that all of that runs smoothly for 8 individual training sessions. Seems like a lot. By the end, it'll be a well-oiled machine, I'm sure. But you know, so I will say I'm planning on, you know, being available, either myself and or Danielle, for all of the training sessions. So to the extent that we need somebody to be monitored, is that okay, Danielle? I just throw you right in front of the bus like that. I mean, I know you had them on your, but between the two of us, you know, we'll be able to kind of man it. But then whichever, you know, any of you guys who are, you know, going to be there that day, then that would be great too. But it's hard if you're presenting to also do anything else with monitoring things. So I think we will just provide that support and figure out a way to make sure that we're tracking all the requirements. So, and then any additional days that you guys can help out when you're not training, that would be great too. You know, have an extra set of eyes. And there's shorter sessions, so it should be okay. All right, for next steps, I thought, I know we have kind of a lot to talk about, but I thought that for purposes of the presentations and getting the actual curriculum to the standing committee, it would be helpful. I know Liza already did it. We've gone through the ones that Justine and I, either together or independently, are going to reach out to the speakers. Do you guys think it makes sense? I was thinking that it would be helpful to, you know, on the heels of those individual meetings, that ask each of the presenters to get us a draft curriculum. And it could be one that they just update from the last one that they did in 2018. So hopefully it wouldn't be too taxing to do. But do you guys think
it's really kind of that bulleted, you know, kind of outline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not too many bullets. Yeah.
Yeah, just like kind of a little bit more of a fleshed out, rather, because like right now all we had shared with the standing committee was just the topics. So maybe like sort of like we did last time, that had a little more meat to it, that we could have them send us. So if we ask each of the presenters, and we could reach out to the ones that we've been working with or connecting with, to get that to us by, what do you guys think would be reasonable? Could we ask for, even if we got it by like May 3rd? Because that'll give us a week to look at it, go back and forth if there's anything that we'd want to suggest adding or changing. And then we'd have it, that'll give us a couple weeks. Do you think that timeline works? Does that work on your end, Justine? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that will be a next step. And we can each reach out to the folks who we've been dealing with to ask them to get that to us. And then,
Susan, let me just clarify. So you're going to reach out to Jody Oshana and her co-presenter?
Yep, I'm going to copy you
on it.
Yep.
And then, okay, so then, because they're going to have to connect and figure out who's saying what, and we need to clarify for them exactly what about child development, if they want if we want the general basics, or if we want impact on development when there's high conflict and violence and those things.
Yeah, for that training child development, you and I can do it just too myself. I'll send them. We'll do a prep meeting, a pre-meeting before.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah, for them, and the same for Danielle and Sue.
Perfect. Okay.
So they won't get something right now that says send us an agenda, because they'll be like, well, I don't even know this person, or they wouldn't know what they're supposed to each be doing. So, but once we're done with that prep meeting for those two sessions in particular, then we'll let them know when we talk to them that if they can then meet offline or whatever to get us a finalized agenda for their particular training by May 3rd. That should give people enough time. Do you guys think? It's not going to be, most of them probably already know what they're doing, or they'll be revising what they had done. Okay. So when would we want to have our next meeting? Would we want to do it sometime after that?
Yeah, I was going to suggest Tuesday the 4th.
That works for me. Do you guys, does that work for you, Justine? And I know Damon would have to make sure
It
that,
doesn't clear that day. Of course, you never know what's going to happen with
I
court.
know.
I have almost a full caseload, and so
yeah,
I'm holding to the bench.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
we'll just need to make sure that there's time available to, there's space available for live streaming, but that's all right. Well, I'll check on that. So May 4th at what time?
Yeah, what time?
What time works? Is later in the afternoon easier for
No.
you, Christine? Oh, it's not.
No, I have a standing meeting on Tuesdays that starts at 4, and it's in person. So this meeting would have to, I'm clear most of the day, but a hard out at 3:30.
Okay. So what's better? I'm just thinking for the court schedule. I just have something that goes in the morning from 8:30 to 10:30. So I could do any time after that.
Let's say 11 to 12:30, and
Does that work for you, Liza? Yeah? Okay.
do we want to confirm that there's, like, Damon, can you look now to see?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Do you want to give a couple options then, like maybe 11:30 to, or 11 to 12:30, or 12:30 to 2, something like, so he has a couple options to work with?
Yeah, I'm free all the way up in, from, it looks like the window for Justine and I, maybe you too, Liza, I don't know, would be from, I can do from 11 to 3:30.
Yeah, the only thing I have that day is a 4 o'clock meeting, so I'm pretty.
Okay,
All right. Well,
so that's a good window, Damon.
understanding from 11 o'clock to 3:30, there's some flexibility there. And
Yep.
I'll work on that.
Okay,
All right.
all right, that's great. And then what I'll have to do, we may have to be doing some email communication in between meetings. I'll send you guys and we'll talk to our person who does the forms to see if we can have a separate registration type thing for students. And then, because my thought was we might, I'm thinking we want to get this posted like by the end of this month. Don't you guys think? I mean, just because, that won't give people much time with all the dates if they want to register to clear their calendars for them. So, so I'll just email you guys. Well, we can email about that stuff in advance of our next meeting. Did we miss anything that any of you wanted to bring up?
I was just thinking, if you feel like there might be a sense of urgency about making people aware of the dates, you can do like just a posting of a save the date without knowing all the parameters of the registration and all of that, and just say, these are the dates. And registration coming soon or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're worried that we won't get the people because they'll already be booked up.
Yeah. Okay, we'll check with Norm to see, I think we should be relatively close to getting, it's a Google form doc, so it should be pretty much ready to go. But if not, that's a good idea. If not, we can do a save the dates. But we'll get that out and we'll email you guys the final draft version of it, make sure it works for you, and then we'll post it. And then Damon, I know we're gonna hang up. We will also need to put that on Judicial's website like we did last time on the Standing Committee's website.
Yep, we'll link to it. That's no problem.
Okay. All right, so more to come on that. I'll send you guys the email. I know we're under the gun, right, Damon? Do you need to hang up? Okay.
We need to wrap.
Good thing I talk fast, huh? Anyway, all right, it was nice to see you guys, and we will talk soon. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody.